Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I feel a little like I'm back in the 19th century. Renee used her iPad, Wendell used his iPad, and I'm here with paper. But, Peter is with me. Let me acknowledge Dr. Rachel Renee, Mr. Wendell Smith, and Peter Reed, the teachers who are here and who have been selected to be part of the program. I don't know if there are any students here, no, and the other members here in the audience. And let me begin by acknowledging and thanking Renee for inviting me. This is actually the first time I'll be speaking in my capacity as Minister of State for, it's actually called the Ministry of Science, Technology, Energy and Mining. Science, Technology, Energy and Mining. So STEM, it's actually STEM. When we were thinking of the acronym, we didn't want to do it the other way around and say Mining, Energy, Science and Technology. MEST. When you want to put on jokes and could be used in many ways. But I'm happy to be here, and as Renee said, I accepted the invitation immediately because education means a lot to me. As some of you know, most of you know, I was just elected as a member of parliament, and it is in fact the most important priority for me as a member of parliament, because there are many things we can do as politicians, but I think the most lasting is to transform people's lives through the provision of opportunities, primarily through education. So education is not just something that I'm doing because it's part of my responsibility, but I believe in it, and I believe it's the greatest tool for social empowerment in our society. So I'm happy to be here and happy to be sharing in this occasion. I too was at the prayer breakfast and I got many blessings this morning. I was happy to get some more. And I want to say, I was actually sitting beside the Minister of Education, and he said to me he wants to, he wanted to see my speech and what I intend to say. But he said he has 4 priorities as Minister of Education, and ensuring that technology is used in schools is one of those 4. And certainly in our ministry, the Science, Technology, Energy and Mining, we're going to be working very closely with the Ministry of Education, because as a government we have a commitment to ensuring that technology is as widely available to the entire population. And the building societies, and they are represented here, 2 of the largest ones. I think JN is the largest, and then VMBS after. For undertaking this initiative, you know, we talk a lot about public-private sector partnerships, but to actually put your cash where you put your money where your mouth is, you know, they have invested the money in this program, and it may be considered in line self-interest, but I really want to commend them. No, I say that because businesses can't survive in a country if you don't have a literate population, if you don't have a population that is consuming. So that's why I say in line self-interest. I mean, hopefully we'll have more businesses who will undertake other initiatives of this nature. But I want to commend them because it obviously is an expensive and extensive initiative, and it's an initiative which I think will provide significant benefits and has already done so. So I want to thank them for, as I said, putting their money where their mouth is, and to encourage them. Renee said the program is a 5-year program and it ends next year, but I'm sure she has already written the follow-up to this one, and she has already sought thereby. But you know, it's a commendable initiative. I don't want to say it, STEM, because somebody told me STEM is also an acronym for Science, Technology. There's an educational program called STEM, Math. Yeah. But our ministry, and certainly as the Minister of State, and when I have responsibility for information technology, this is something that we are going to treat as one of our priorities. Ask, why do we need technology in schools? And there are some obvious answers to that. One, to ensure that we increase motivation and self-esteem for our students. The dynamism and creativity of computer technologies in classrooms increase the students' interest in class activities and their own sense of their own capabilities. That's one reason. Secondly, and I think probably most importantly and very dearly to me, is to ensure that we promote equity, because technological tools equip students to compete with other students who are from different socioeconomic backgrounds. And I think this may be a little radical to say this, but and if I get quoted, I'll stand by. The system of education that we have, in a sense, could be likened to an apartheid system. Maybe a bit strong. But the reality is, if you look at a school like Campion, which I went to, which produces the best results in the country. It produces the best results. Yes, it gets the best students, but the students who go to Campion also, many of them have the benefit of extra lessons, have the technologies at home, have the parents who ensure that they do their work. And you compare that with another school, and I won't call another name, but you get the point I'm making, that we have to find a way in the country of leveling the playing field. Because it can't be simply because of circumstances of where you're born and where you're raised. And those circumstances have you end up in a particular type of school that you end up with a second-rate education. And the use of technology is a way of leveling that playing field. Because the kid in the inner city who has access to the technology, who can go online and do the research, can be on par, certainly in terms of access, with the more affluent student. And that is clearly something that is a priority and an important aspect of what we have to do as a government and as a society. And also, the technology prepares students for the future. Schools have a responsibility to give students, and in particular students from the lower socioeconomic groupings, the confidence and the skills in using the technologies even after they graduate. I think the technology has become so diffused in our society now. Everybody, I don't want to say everybody, but the smartphones are so widely used now. You know, as I said, delivering speeches, the iPad has become commonplace now. And that's a good thing, and that's something to be encouraged. And as a society, from the perspective of enabling learning, it is something that we must promote. There are many examples of how the technology has, in fact, improved achievement in reading, writing, and mathematics. And I'll just give an example. And this is from the United States. And in looking over the notes in preparing for this, one of the things that I think we have to do more of, really, and I know you probably measure what you do in this program, is to record and publish some of the things we do locally, because there are unfortunately not many examples of how we have used the technology here in Jamaica. And while I use this example, I hope the next time I speak on this topic I can use a local example. But this is from Missouri in the United States, and it speaks to elementary students whose classrooms are equipped with technology, basic productivity software, and high-speed internet connections, who scored consistently higher in every subject area of the Missouri assessment program than students who did not have this access. Another example from Massachusetts, fourth grade students who reported greater frequency of technology use at schools to edit papers were likely to have higher total English language arts test scores and higher writing scores in the Massachusetts comprehensive assessment system than students who didn't. And I'm sure there are many other examples across other jurisdictions. And I would, as I said, Renee, I would love if we could do it, to look at where our students were prior to, for example, the installation of a computer lab in a school. Look at the results then and look at the results now to see whether having the access to the technology, because the technology by itself, if it's not used properly, may not enhance learning. If you spend all the time on Facebook, which I do some too, but I use it constructively. But it is important for us to assess, because certainly as a government, we are spending a lot of money through our e-learning program to equip the schools with not just the labs, but the high-speed internet access. And certainly one way of measuring it is to look at the results both before and after. In Jamaica, we have an excellent ICT platform, which is far superior to many of our counterparts in the Caribbean. And part of the reason for that, Jamaica was actually the first country to embark on the process of liberalizing our telecoms regime. And that facilitated a lot of investment in the telecoms infrastructure. For whatever may be said about the competition between the telecoms providers, Jamaica has one of the best infrastructures in the world. And I'm not saying that because I'm standing here as a government representative. I'm saying that because those are measurements that independent organizations have said about us. We are now operating in a landscape of mobile telephony, where information is available at everybody's fingertips. Jamaica is ranked among the top 15 countries in the world with the top broadband speeds. Our mobile penetration as of June 2010 stands at over 110%. And you understand why it's more than 100%. Because you have a digital, I don't want to say a Claro, but you might still have a Claro, and you have a cable and wireless, a line phone. And there are some issues with that which we intend to tackle, but the fact is, almost every Jamaican has at least one cell phone, or even more than one. And internet access now stands at 55.1%. And I want to explain how they define internet access. They don't define it based on a smartphone that you're able to access the internet from. It's actually based on whether you have a computer at your home that you can access the internet from. Because when I saw these figures, I said 55% seems very small, because many people have smartphones with the access, but they don't measure it that way. So in real terms, I mean, we have more than 55% of Jamaicans who have access to internet. I want to just speak a little bit about the e-learning project. And I would say Peter was at the prayer breakfast. My colleague, Bobby Pickersgill, who was sitting beside me, he was quoted by Reverend Anglin. And Bobby always reminds us that for a speech to be immortal, it doesn't need to be eternal. And I'm certainly, it's advised that I will be. So you don't need to worry, I won't be here all morning. But the e-learning program, which was introduced under the previous PNP administration, seeks to address various shortcomings in the educational system, and in particular at the grades 7 to 11 in all high schools throughout the country. The main goal of the e-learning project are threefold. One, to improve the quality of education. Two, to enhance learning experience. And three, to ensure high levels of passes in CXC exams. And I know it's CXC and it's CSEC and there are some other names. I still come from the Common Entrance School and the O-levels and the A-levels, and it's even a struggle for me to even remember some of the new names and the terminologies for the exams. Achievements under the project to date. Under the technology infrastructure component, audiovisual equipment has been delivered to 166 public high schools, 16 independent high schools, 8 teacher colleges, 5 community colleges, and 6 special schools. And these are schools that have students with learning and physical disabilities. Computer equipment and networks have been installed in 162 public high schools and 8 teacher colleges. In the coming months, the e-learning program will roll out additional laptops to be delivered to 176 institutions to support grade 10 and 11, and group lab technology and a group lab technology deployment strategy. It will also roll out computer equipment and networks to be delivered to an additional 4 high schools and 16 independent schools. And importantly, with systems administrators being trained. And this was one which I found quite exciting. The rollout of interactive whiteboards to be installed in these schools. As we move forward, there are a number of opportunities that arise from having technology in our educational system. As the mobile devices become more powerful and more affordable, the potential for enhancing student learning has come into clearer focus. Internationally, some educators are distributing tablets in schools with the intention of continued radical classroom development. Many schools across the world are well on their way into integrating tablet technologies into their daily routines. Some schools are choosing to eliminate the traditional textbooks completely in a pioneering pledge to remain at the forefront of technology. I don't know if we're going to reach that stage where instead of having, and it, you know, is not something that may be far-fetched and something we should look at, because as somebody who is in the political arena, every September, one of your biggest requests is for all these books that the students have to buy. And I know it is a bit of a transformation to have all the material on a computer, but it's certainly something that we have to look at to reduce the cost and make learning more accessible, because I can tell you it is one of the hindrances, and certainly for parents, in terms of affording the books. Social networking sites provide a platform for student creativity by enabling them to design projects using Word, music, photos, and videos. In recent years, there's been explosive growth in students creating, manipulating, and sharing content online. It is said that an education that fails to account for the use of social media tools prepares students well for the past, but not for their future. And again, the social media has to be managed. It's an important tool, but as with everything, it can be misused, and it is very easy to get carried away with social media. But certainly for me, and Renee mentioned it, I'm an advocate for it. I told somebody tweeted me and said, I'm sure you're going to stop tweeting now that you have become a member of parliament or you have become a minister of state. And I said, no. And they said, oh, you're probably going to outsource it to somebody to do it. And I said, no. And I said, I'm going to continue to use the tool because it is my way of staying in touch with my constituents and staying in touch with the wider public. And you'll be amazed the amount of people who contact me via email, Facebook, phone, text, non-physical ways to deal with real issues. Real issues. I mean, people who want their roads fixed or who want assistance with educational issues. And so it has become for me a very legitimate way of staying in touch with my constituents. It has also posed another challenge, which is just the overwhelming demand that it places on you and the need to be responsive to all of it. But in a way, it is reshaping how, as a member of parliament, I interact with my constituents. So I still have a traditional day when I will sit in an office, but on a daily basis, in fact, morning, noon, and night, I'm in touch with my constituents. It is now therefore no longer an option, but an imperative that our schools examine more formal ways of incorporating these newer technologies into the learning system. Educators now need to maximize opportunities presented by new media. We have a tech-savvy generation that we can meet where they are with the current technologies. For example, a study conducted in 2010 in the United States showed that in schools that prohibited cell phones, 54% of students still report sending texts during the school day. And I'm sure many teachers can relate to this. And it is I know this one is a challenging one because it's a distraction to some extent, but I know parents, whether for security or other reasons, feel the need to ensure that their kids have their cell phones with them. What is the way forward? Technology has changed the way the world does business. It has also changed the way we learn. We need to encourage more private sector partnership in ICT that will benefit our educational institutions, and in the long term increase economic competitiveness as our national ICT intelligence quotient increases. In order to achieve our desired level of success, we will now need to make the necessary adjustments that will allow us to meet the global ICT trends in education. In one of my previous dispensations, I worked at JAMPRO and I had responsibility for attracting ICT investment. And it is clear to me our economy is I would say it is more a services-based economy than a goods-producing economy. We have to tackle some of the issues to ensure that we are more competitive as a goods-producing economy. But what is clear to me is that our future as a country is going to be determined by the quality of our resource, and the greatest resource we have is our people. So the investment in ICT to facilitate our students being at the cutting edge is the most important thing that we can do as a country. Because we can't attract investment in any area if our greatest resource is subpar in comparison to other countries. And in fact, when investors are trying to make a determination about where they should locate an investment project, whether even if it is bauxite alumina, if it is a software development center, one of the critical differentiators is the quality and the education of your workforce. So our investment in ICT is something which is going to be the most critical component of how competitive we remain as a country and our ability to grow the size of our economy. Our need to train students, we need to train students not to simply become manipulators of the existing technologies, but importantly, to become creators and innovators. You know, one of our greatest assets, we have the best and the worst of everything in Jamaica. And we have some of the most creative Jamaicans around. And we have to find a way to allow those youngsters, whether they are in graphic design, whether they are in animation, to allow them to have the technology at their disposal so that they can compete with the best in the world. And the beauty of how the technology works is that the technology allows you to stay at your home and do your own design, having access to high-speed internet connection, and work from home and interact with people anywhere in the world. And we, as I said, we can't just embrace the technology for use alone, but we have to become creators and innovators and develop our own programs and patent them in a way that India has become, in a sense, the knowledge center in terms of ICT. In the United Kingdom, there's now a move to eliminate ICT lessons from the curriculum at the start of the school year in September to be replaced by computer science, which is mandatory for all students. In reality, and this might be a little controversial, some teachers are intimidated by the technological revolution, because I know some teachers may believe it will reduce their role, it may make them less relevant. It actually is the opposite, because the technology, while facilitating access to greater information, it will not ever replace the role of a teacher, because what a teacher will have to do is simply reinvent, in a sense, the way you teach. And the way you teach is not just about sharing the knowledge that may be available elsewhere, but how that knowledge can be used and applied in a way to become innovators and to become creators. So additional investments in ICT training for teachers and librarians will be necessary to harness the possibilities of ICTs in revolutionizing the educational system. In concluding, the introduction of new technologies into schools by itself is not sufficient to transform our educational system, nor does it guarantee improvement in the quality of education or in raising the attainment. And that's why I said it would be important to assess the before and after when we look at the investments we have made in these schools. ICTs must be accompanied by a number of other elements, including teacher development. Together, these form critical components in the thrust towards enhance teaching and learning and raising our educational standards. I want to reiterate my commendation to the mutual societies who have partnered on this program to create these centers of excellence, and to encourage them to continue to invest in our people, which is our greatest asset. I anticipate that our country will receive the benefit, the net benefit of this and other similar programs that may exist. I want to challenge all of you who are here as educators to take the technology and make it an integrated part of the learning and the curriculum in all our schools. I want to assure you that you have the support of the Ministry of Science, Technology, Energy and Mining, and the support of this government as we move forward to improve the quality of life in Jamaica and to ensure that our children have the best possible opportunity for learning. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning.